talking about some of the Charlie Chan movies. Some racist detective movies from the 30s.
Recording. Okay, it's going. It's working.
All right, so we're all recording now.
Mm-hmm.
Or Abraxas,
All right.
starring Jesse Ventura.
We're gonna roll.
All right,
the
so
intro.
who's gonna do? Yeah, who's gonna do the intro?
I'll do the intro.
Do the intro.
All right. We're gonna be
your radio announcer voice.
We're going live. We're going live in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next exciting episode of the Films Under Constant Critique podcast. These are your hosts, Maverick Drenzaria and Servant of Athena. Fuck. And I am Susano, and today we are going to be reviewing Mad Max from 1979 and The Road Warrior from 1981. So, let's get into it.
Before we get to the movies, what's Athenia?
I don't know.
I
don't know. I don't think such a thing. Let me look that up real quick.
Okay.
Just a mispronunciation from Susano.
Susano. Athenia.
Yeah.
The SS
derived from Athena.
Oh, I got something. The SS Athenia, 1922. It was a steam turbine transatlantic passenger liner built in Glasgow, Scotland, in 1923.
Scotland. Oh wow.
Oh, that's the second ship to be named Athenia. The earlier Athenia was attacked and sunk in 1918. Both ships were attacked by the Germans at some point.
Are you both just reading this off of Wikipedia?
Yes.
Or do you just know that off the top of your head, Servant of Athenia?
And now we know it off the top of our head.
I focus primarily on boats. I know everything about boats.
Yeah.
So it's a boat.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my god.
Okay, back on topic.
Now we can get to the movies. So the quick rundown.
The first film, Mad Max, was released in 1979 in Australia. Then it was released in 1980 in the United States. And its original American release was dubbed because the distributors were afraid the public wouldn't understand the Australian accents.
Well, now hang on.
Dumb move.
Well, I got something to say about that already, because I looked this up because that bothered me that was the reason that they did it, and I looked it up. Apparently, it has everything to do with like money and licensing. Apparently, it had nothing to do with them not
marketing. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Marketing.
Huh.
Again, either way, it was a dumb decision.
It was bad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and the film was directed by George Miller, who later directed Babe and Happy Feet.
Indeed, he did.
Quite the wide variety of movies there.
Mm-hmm.
Both Babe movies, actually. Babe and Babe Pig in the City.
Huh.
And it also features one of Mel Gibson's earliest performances. I think this was his second film, if I remember right. I don't remember what his first one was.
I'll look that up.
It was some beach movie in like 1977 or something, but I don't remember the name of it.
Well, this is a pretty big second movie to have.
It was his.
Just dropped on you.
It was close. It was his third. His first two movies were I Never Promised You a Rose Garden, 1977, and also in 1977, Summer City. So that's probably what you're
Summer
thinking
City
of.
must have been the one I was thinking of, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, also you have music done by Brian May, not the guitarist from Queen, but the Australian composer. And he also did the music for the Chuck Norris movie Missing in Action 2: The Beginning, and Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare.
Oh, hell yeah.
Two very well-respected sequels.
Mm-hmm.
Well, prequel, because Missing in Action 2 is a prequel.
Yes.
Because it was filmed before the first Missing in Action movie, but they thought the first one was better, so they released that first.
Really?
That's very
that's bizarre.
Yeah.
I think the second one I think is way better because it's like at a POW camp and there's some great torture scenes and stuff.
Yes.
You get Chuck Norris using a flamethrower at one point.
Of course.
You gotta love canon films.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, this movie was actually the most successful independent film
Really?
before being surpassed by the Blair Witch Project 20 years later.
Mm.
Okay,
I don't like that.
Yeah, I think Mad Max is way better.
Oh yeah,
Oh, of course.
Blair Witch was ugh, but that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah.
So, let's start with the movie now.
So Mad Max, 1979. Basically, the plot is set not too, what was it? What they have in the opening narration, not too far from now, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
I always forget what it says.
yeah.
In the not so distant
I don't
future
know.
or something
They
like that.
never
A few
give an
years from now.
exact-
That's it. It was a few years from now.
Next Sunday AD.
Yeah. Next Sunday AD, aka
reference.
a few years from now. So
That's a Mystery Science Theater reference.
um
It's like, but yeah.
a few years from now was correct because people have analyzed the crap out of the movie and they have discovered that it takes place in, I believe, 1984 or 1985. So the premise of it is
George Orwell.
yes, not a good book. Read Brave New World; it's much better.
I disagree. 1984 is way better, but
You're the first person I've ever heard who has that opinion. Well, to each their own.
I feel like Brave New World was like the more accurate that we could get.
Correct. Yes.
Like, I think maybe back in the day, 1984 would have been the more accurate one. Like, you'd see these rise of massive authoritarian governments like that. But then, Brave New World, I think that's definitely the dictatorship of tomorrow.
Yes.
But anyway,
absolutely,
that's off topic.
Well, but to steer ourselves back on course, you know,
it's fitting
Mad
that
Max
there
is.
Yeah. Sorry. What were you saying?
Mad Max is it's kind of a semi-post-apocalyptic movie, the first one in particular, which is very interesting, and it's never really been, as far as I know, it's never been done before or since. It's sort of on the verge of the apocalypse.
Yeah.
The premise of it is things played out in the 1970s the same way they did everywhere. There was the oil crisis of the 1970s, and so fuel became very expensive and scarce. But the idea of the apocalypse of Mad Max is that in the first one, it's not nuclear, it's not like zombies or anything crazy like that. It's just simply the
economic collapse, basically.
Economic collapse. Yeah, the idea is that the fuel crisis never ended. So now you have basically society is barely holding itself together.
70s. You can tell it was made in the 70s, so.
Absolutely. So you have society barely holding itself together. The only thing standing between Australia and total collapse is a police force called the Main Force Patrol, of which Max Rockatansky, our protagonist, is he's absolutely. He's like the star of the police force. He's the best driver there is, and he always gets the job done. And the police force has been dwindling for some time when the movie starts. And gangs are just everywhere trying to get their hands on fuel. They rape and pillage. You know, it's just it's a slaughterhouse out there. So over the course of the film, Max he sees his best friend and partner Goose killed. And the gangs, they get a gang run by this dude called the Toe Cutter comes in, and they just start fucking everything up. And
can I just say, I love Toe Cutter in this movie.
Yes.
Oh, he's great.
He's got like this weird chaotic energy.
Oh yeah.
He's such a weird character. Like, he has a lot of like weird tics, and his accent like changes every scene.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He was also incredibly devoted to the Knight Rider.
Absolutely.
Who basically starts off Toe Cutter's gang's like next series of pillages.
Yes. The opening scene of the movie is where
the guy's spying on those two people, like in the
Well, that's the very opening scene. But the cops, they're spying on two people fucking.
I always
This
thought that was
cop
a
is
weird
spying on these two.
opening. It has nothing
It
to do
is
with the
pretty.
rest
It was
of the
kind of
movie.
funny.
I guess that's to like illustrate that society has gone to shit. Because of course in the '70s you'd never be fucking out in the open. And nowadays, of course. But
whatever goes.
But in the opening scene, there's these two cops. They get the whole squad in on it. They're chasing the Knight Rider, who is a member of Toe Cutter's gang. He's like his right hand man, and he stole a police interceptor, and he's on the run, just causing chaos. So they have to call in Max. They have to call in Max because he's the only guy with the skills enough to do it, and he does it, and he kills him. And then that spurs on the Toe Cutter to come to town, and he seeks vengeance against Max and the whole police force in general. So and then over the course of the film, Goose gets killed, Max's partner. He decides to take a vacation because he just can't take the mental stress of it anymore. And
it's a really depressing movie.
Oh, it really is. He just loses everything.
That scene where he's like in the hospital looking at Goose's like burned corpse is like genuinely upsetting.
Oh yeah. And he says that's not Goose. That's not my friend.
Yeah, he like doesn't recognize him. He's like, that thing in there, that's not the Goose, and he looks genuinely shocked too.
Yep, and that's it for him. He's dead. They had a theory that he comes back as the main antagonist of the Road Warrior, the Humongous, but this was just a concept.
I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, apparently they were planning on doing it, but they didn't know how many people would have actually seen the previous film.
Yeah.
Or remembered Goose. So
in the second film at all.
No,
which
they don't really mention.
Me.
They don't really mention any of the first film except for the fact that, Max's family is dead.
Except the recap.
Yeah, and there are a few clips of it. Yeah. So Goose gets killed. He decides to take a vacation, but Toe Cutter gets word of this, and his gang follows him on, as they're going to their vacation spot. They find out. They get cornered in the end. Toe Cutter and his gang kill Max's wife and kid. That's something, if you haven't seen the original Mad Max, you might not know. He had a wife and kid. And so after that...
didn't see the first film. They didn't know about the series until The Road Warrior.
Yeah.
And
of course,
with,
The Road Warrior...
Evil Dead, too, actually. Like, a lot of people saw the second one before seeing the first one.
Yeah. And of course, they did pull a...
of course.
They pulled a Raiders of a Lost Ark as well, where then later they added like Indiana Jones : Raiders of the Lost Ark, so that you knew it was a part.
Yeah.
Originally, it was just The Road Warrior, and then they named it Mad Max 2: The Road Warrior. So yeah.
Yeah.
I actually read about that.
It was released as The Road Warrior in America, but like Australia, it was Mad Max 2 because it's huge over there.
Yeah,
I read that it was called that they just released it as The Road Warrior in America, so that you wouldn't automatically connect it back to the first Mad Max.
Basically,
that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. They're like, "Oh, this is a new movie."
Oh yeah. You can kind of watch it independently of the first one.
That's something interesting. You can watch any of them. Yeah.
Yeah. But. Alright, so then at the point where Max's wife and kid gets killed, that is when he becomes Mad Max, because he has nothing left to lose, and he'll kill anyone who gets in his way, basically. So he steals the best, fastest police car from the station, and he just goes on a rampage, just killing gang members wherever he can find them, and in the end, he chases the Toe Cutter. Toe Cutter's not paying attention, runs into the front of a semi and gets killed, and then
it's
in a very...
like Death Wish, actually.
It is, absolutely.
Just goes vigilante after,
Yeah. And after he kills Toe Cutter, the leader, Johnny the Boy, who was, basically, I assume he was the replacement, kind of, for the Knight Rider after he got killed, that Toe Cutter was trying to kind of raise him to be that way. He, in a very brutal last scene, he finds Johnny the Boy next to a wrecked truck, I believe it is, that's like leaking gasoline and stuff. He ran the dude off the road and he's like looting him.
It's leaking gasoline.
And he handcuffs him to the truck. He rigs up a little MacGyver type of deal where he puts a lighter next to it, and the cracked headlight that starts filling up with gasoline. Once it fills up, it spills over, and the lighter catches it on fire. And he gives him a hacksaw, and he says, "These handcuffs are high tensile steel. You can hack through them in 10 minutes, and if you're lucky, you can hack through your ankle in 5. Go." And he just leaves.
That's one of my
inspired a Saw, actually.
Yeah.
That is one of my favorite endings to any movie ever. It's actually
a great ending.
It's such an amazing last scene. You just see that he's gone.
Yep.
Completely.
And it's like the intro of the Road Warrior says, yeah, he's a desolate man, a burnt out desolate man, a shell. He lost everything. So that's Mad Max. Great movie. A little bit scuzzy. But it takes a few watches, in my opinion, to really understand everything that's going on without looking up anything.
I actually really hated the movie the first time I saw it, just because it took forever for him to become Mad Max.
Yeah,
but it's definitely grown on me the more I've watched it.
It does.
This movie was actually the second Mad Max movie that I had ever seen. Right after.
Yeah, that's the reason.
Yeah,
that's the reason we did the podcast, was so Nick could see the rest of them.
Yeah,
and because I hadn't seen Fury Road. So.
Yeah, the only one that I had seen was Fury Road.
Mm-hmm.
And so a while later, I went back and watched the first one. It's so weird how different it is from the rest of the series.
Yes,
but I still love it so much.
That's why I like it, actually. Honestly, it might be my favorite of the series now, but I don't know.
It's very unique.
I think one of the things that I love the most about it is
the first one,
setting
but it's
in time.
Somehow, even though it's the first one, it's the black sheep.
Pseudo post-apocalyptic setting.
Everyone says Beyond Thunderdome is the black sheep, and I can see that. But just from a setting standpoint, the first one is so radically different from the other three.
They're all radically different from each other, if you ask me.
But the Road Warrior is the most similar to Fury Road, though.
Beyond Thunderdome's a lot different in, tone and stuff. That's why people usually say it's the Black Sheep.
Yeah, it's more whimsical, more adventurous, less dark.
That's not good. Where's
I also, when I rewatched this, I watched it with the DVD commentary, which featured some of the crew of the film, the art director, the guy that did the cinematography, one of the guys that did the special effects, as well as a film historian who was a crew member on Mad Max Fury Road and also made a documentary about Mad Max.
Yes.
And there's some kind of funny lines in there, at one point in the commentary, one of them asks, "Now is this a family film?" and another one of them says, "I suppose so." And then, right as the movie's ending, one of them says, "I would like to thank everybody that was involved." Everybody. Yeah, especially us. That made me laugh. But there were some interesting tidbits that I learned from that, some of which I did already know. George Miller was inspired to make the film because he was actually a doctor.
Yeah.
In a hospital.
Yeah, I heard
he
about
worked in an emergency room.
Yeah.
He saw a lot of results of car and motorcycle accidents while working there. And when people were injured during these movies from the stunts, which happened a lot, obviously, he actually would examine their injuries.
Huh.
Yep.
And also Knight Rider, the guy that played Knight Rider, did a lot of improv with his lines too.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Apparently, a lot of the lyrics, or a lot of his lines, were actually lyrics to an AC/DC song.
Really?
Yeah.
Which one?
I think it was Live Wire.
Oh wow.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Is that where Fuel Injected Suicide Machine comes from?
Probably.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We get some other tidbits.
The crashes were all done in one take.
Huh.
Well, of course.
They had to
That's
get it
impressive.
Right the first time, yeah.
It was a shoestring budget,
which makes the movie very impressive because like these car stunts are all being done for real. These are real car stunts, and they're very impressive. There's like a lot of one of my favorites is when that car just goes flying through that camper, just destroys the camper. That's towards the beginning of the film.
And fun fact about that was George Miller's camper, or was it someone else's? Yeah,
really.
It was George Miller's.
George Miller's van is in the film.
Yep.
I know that.
And
the only person in the film wearing a real leather outfit was actually Mel Gibson. Max.
Yep. All the rest are vinyl. Yeah.
Yeah.
Couldn't afford it. I think it's really impressive when you look at what the movie does, right?
It's a very low budget film, and
yeah,
it's a very low budget film, but they used all their resources. Like the truck at the end when it crashed. Like he didn't want his truck to actually get destroyed, so they painted this board on the front of it to look like the front of the truck.
And if you know, you know, but on your first viewing, you probably won't notice.
You don't notice it.
I didn't notice it the first time, but rewatching it, it's really obvious.
Yeah.
That it's painted.
Just don't tell people. Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's kind of funny, actually. So.
Oh yeah.
Can we talk about?
What's up?
Well, let's talk about the actual stuff in the
yeah.
Now, but
I want to mention. Nick? I want to mention. Max's kid. He's got a real weird name.
Sprog.
I actually had to go look that up the first time I watched it. I'm like, what is he saying?
What even kind of a name? I don't know if they were trying to go for a future name because it takes place in
the Black Cauldron.
Look it up.
It's the name from the Black Cauldron.
Not a clue where they would come up with Sprog. Yeah, it's weird.
Sprog is the Danish word for language, in case you were curious.
Oh, gotcha.
Are you kidding me?
His wife's name is Jessie. Jessie! We have to cook. Jessie! And she plays saxophone, which is possibly referenced in Beyond Thunderdome, because there's a dude who plays saxophone. Yeah.
It's done in the same manner, where at first you think it's part of the soundtrack, but then the camera moves and you can see that it's someone actually playing the saxophone.
Yes. The stunts.
Also, sorry. Yeah, you can go.
The stunts are absolutely bonkers in this film, as they are in every Mad Max film. I believe Beyond Thunderdome was a little bit lighter on the stunts, but for instance, when they slide down on the road because there was a crash and Goose gets hit by his front wheel by his motorcycle, that actually happened. It messed up his neck. It's just insane what they went through.
Yeah.
They don't make movies like that anymore.
Also, what's interesting is, I don't know if you know this, but Mel Gibson got the part. He, when he showed up to the audition after, a drunken bar fight.
Yeah.
And his face was all beat up, so they, at first they cast him as one of the bikers.
Yeah.
Huh.
But then he showed up on set, and by that point his face was, all healed up, and they didn't recognize him.
That's pretty great.
And they're like, oh, he's good looking. Let's cast him as Max.
It worked out.
So I think
I find it interesting that Goose kind of seems like the main character in this one.
A little bit
at first. Anyway.
Yeah. It follows a lot of him at the beginning,
and
then once he's dead, then it focuses more on Max and his family escaping the toe cutter.
Yeah.
Yeah. The toe cutter.
What do you want to talk about?
Name and
so I think I tried to bring this up, but my Wi-Fi kind of failed on me.
Oh.
Yeah, no, my Wi-Fi is kind of garbage sometimes. But I think that the setting of, I know we mentioned it a little bit at the beginning, but the setting of this movie is just fascinating to me.
Oh yeah.
Because most movies, it's either you're at the point where the apocalypse starts, or you are well after the apocalypse when everything's already fallen apart. This is in a weird stage that I think would actually happen if a big cataclysmic event were to happen, where we try to pretend like everything is normal, and we try to, have some semblance of control, so, they still have, like, the police stations going around trying to act like, hey, we're still in charge here. As the rest of society... Businesses. Yeah, but, the rest of society is still collapsing, so you're getting all these gangs rising up.
Yep.
There's, like, that junkyard.
Yeah.
That is part of the police station.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yes.
Like, the police station's a mess.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, it's a total mess.
It's, like, really run down.
Yep. There's they're not even, they don't even have cars anymore because there's no more production of cars at that point, presumably, so they're just getting whatever cars they can, just cobbling them together. That's what the black on black, or the V8 Interceptor, the good, really fast one that Max takes at the end, that becomes his signature vehicle of the series. That was just cobbled together from whatever they had lying around. And they and there is not, well, you get into it much more in the later films, but there is a big emphasis on the V8 engine, and here's a little bit of engineering and cultural significance behind the V8. It is the jack of all trades of automotive engines. There's a balance between complexity, power, economy, and those three things. So that is why the V8 would be a desirable engine in a situation like in the Mad Max movies, particularly in the Apocalypse, because it has enough power to let you run people down or escape people. It gets just enough fuel economy that you're not going to be running out of fuel constantly, and it is simple enough that you can work on it reasonably and find parts and whatnot. So that is why the V8 in particular, and not a smaller or larger engine, and that persists throughout the entire series, except for, I suppose, Beyond Thunderdome, because he replaces his V8 with I think 4 or 6 camels, I believe.
Yeah. So,
only for the beginning, though. There is still a vehicle chase.
One thing that I do really like in this movie above the others is Max himself. Like at the end, once he becomes, Mad Max, he just kind of has this sort of edge to him that isn't quite there in any of the sequels.
He's way more ruthless
there
than he is in the rest of the films.
And I would have loved to see more of that Max in the situations in, the sequels.
Yes.
Just because having this character who really wouldn't care about anyone else, and if anyone tried to stop him, it's they're dead instantly. That would have been such an interesting character to follow, I feel.
Absolutely.
Out in the wasteland.
I think part of it is in Road Warrior, who's trying to save like ammo and stuff. So that might be why.
In Road Warrior, he was out for himself, but
at
I
least
think
at the beginning, anyway.
Yeah. What happens is that, well, this is the way it is in every Mad Max film essentially, but in the Road Warrior in particular, the events of Mad Max have passed, so he's had enough time to cool down, I guess. So he has nothing left, So rather than just being ruthless, he just ignores people if they need his help, and he's just out for himself because he's reduced to his baser instincts, But the interesting part about his character is that, he's a hero. He was a cop. It's his nature to protect people, so even though he has nothing left and he wants to just disregard people and just be on his own and not go through the pain of losing anyone anymore, he still does it because that's who he is. And that's how it is in all the Mad Max films, besides the first one.
Kind of reminds me of Humphrey Bogart's character, Rick, in Casablanca.
Yeah.
A bit. At least like his character arc in that film, where he starts off he doesn't want to have anything to do with like the war or helping anyone,
Yes.
But then, like, as the film goes on, he starts realizing he can't be neutral anymore.
Something interesting to think about would be, like, just imagine this film in a vacuum. So, like, there's no sequels. It ends with the main character going insane and just going off into the Australian distance.
Yep.
And based on what we've seen, he
true,
would just continue this just rampage across Australia.
Yep.
For all we know, he would have just become one of the other, like, gang members or something.
Yes.
Well, that was actually a cut scene from Beyond Thunderdome.
What was the cut scene?
It was basically
I didn't know.
He was going to have a nightmare of some sort where his, wife and kid,
Maybe I did hear about this.
He had a nightmare where his wife and kid were killed again, and he kind of came to this realization that, oh, hey, I'm becoming like these gangs that caused all of this in the first place.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, which is an interesting idea. I wish that had been.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been good. He mentioned that actually in the first film. That was why he took the vacation in the beginning. He said, I need to take a... Well, he wanted to quit the force, but being that he was one of the last guys he had and the only good cop he still had on the force, he said he tried to convince him to come back. So instead of just quitting, he made him take a vacation. But his reason for leaving was, he said, I'm becoming like one of them. The only difference between me and them is a shiny badge.
It's like James Bond in License to Kill.
Yeah.
Resigns from the Secret Service and just goes off on his own, like revenge vendetta.
Yes,
because the drug dealer tried killing one of his friends.
In a way, the police chief is the true main antagonist of the series.
Pretty much, yeah. He was not really a good guy. He just, I don't know.
I just remember he had a big mustache and didn't wear a shirt.
Yeah, one of those things.
A lot of weird side characters in this.
Yeah, none of them are really expanded upon. But I will say, the side characters that get, I don't even know if they get a name, but they're just are in scenes like regular people. Like the guy who was running the train station, like deliveries. He was delivering the Knight Rider's body.
Oh, yeah.
Like his reaction to the toe cutter is so authentic.
Oh god,
it's amazing.
I love that scene. I have no doubt that was improvised by Hugh Keys Byrne.
Oh, it's
like he's just all those weird, unpredictable hand movements and stuff. He it looks like he's about to grab his face.
Yeah. Yep.
Can we talk more about the toe cutter?
Let's talk about toe cutter.
I actually read about him a bit. Apparently, he based his performance on what he think Genghis Khan would act like.
They mentioned that in the commentary, actually, that he looked like Genghis Khan in his outfit and stuff, and
yeah.
So that's that's probably true. Actually.
And apparently, the actors for Toe Cutter, Johnny the Boy, who was killed at the end by Max, and then the station master, the guy at the train, they were all classically trained Shakespearean stage actors.
That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible.
I would love to see Toe Cutter doing Macbeth.
That would be great.
He could do it. He would pull it off so well.
Hugh Keys Byrne was actually in. I have seen some other movies he was in. One of them was The Man from Hong Kong, which was the first martial arts film made in Australia. And George Lazenby plays the bad guy.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, George Lazenby, who most people know for playing James Bond once in On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Incredible.
And it was produced by the same studio that did some of Bruce Lee's movies, Golden Harvest. It's pretty amazing, actually.
Classically trained Shakespeare.
And he's in it. Hugh Keys Byrne. He plays this kind of sarcastic Australian cop that's always arguing with the main character.
Maybe that's the Toe Cutter's background story.
Maybe. The movie came out before, so maybe.
Well, Toe Cutter played.
I feel like Toe Cutter just became the leader of the gang just because the other members were too uncomfortable to tell him no.
That seems right. Yeah. Who's he played by? Hugh Keays-Byrne?
Hugh Keays-Byrne.
Yeah.
He was also in a mini-series adaptation of Moby Dick, which starred Patrick Stewart.
Huh.
What the hell? That sounds awesome.
It was pretty bad, but
that sounds awesome. I want to see it.
The ending's pretty amazing. Just skip to the scenes with the whale and you'll be fine.
Will do. Oh yeah, Hugh Keays-Byrne. He didn't reprise his role as Toe Cutter, obviously, because Toe Cutter's dead in the series, but he did come back to play Immortan Joe, the main antagonist of Fury Road.
I find that so funny that he came back and he's like, yeah, I'll do another Mad Max as the main villain.
Oh yeah. And he's perfect. He's perfect in both roles. Yeah.
He looks so different.
Yeah.
Too, in that film, you would never guess it was him.
But two very different villains. Immortan Joe is not really.
Toe Cutter's really.
He's not really.
Toe Cutter's both kind of like intimidating, but also really goofy. Like
Absolutely.
I like that one part where he like. Or somebody like points a gun at him and then he says, "I hate guns."
Oh, I hate guns. Yeah.
And the part where like
I forgot about that scene.
She like rubs ice cream on his face.
Just like shoves it in his face to get away.
In the crotch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There are like a surprising amount of memorable lines from the original Mad Max.
Yeah.
Like for instance, when they there it is, there's the video. When in the beginning when they're doing the chase and they crash through the trailer and crash the police car, because like there was someone pulling out into the road and someone say, "Oh, you're gonna get it now." He had his indicator on.
His hairstyle too is just.
It's so like a bird.
It looks like a bird or a raccoon on his head.
You've not got a sense of humor.
Why does his accent change in like every scene?
Because he's eccentric. Yeah.
Very.
Good villain. Good movie.
Very, yes.
100 out of 100.
I like how the press are like depicted as just total scumbags. Yep. I always enjoy that in movies.
Of course. Because it's true.
Also, there is like that one scene in the nightclub. I don't know if you remember that. That's a really short
scene. I remember it.
But it really dates the movie. You can definitely tell. It's
absolutely.
Yep.
But I still like it.
And one last word on it being from the 70s. George Miller, what he was going with in the text in the very opening, a few years from now, he was trying to send a message like he was trying to make it timeless, and of course it's very obvious that it's like from the 70s, but he was trying to say like this like on the verge of an apocalyptic scenario that could happen to anyone. So that's kind of what he was trying to do with dating it that way, saying it was a few years from now. Well, that's Mad Max 1. Any other commentary we wanna say before we move on to the Road Warrior?
Is it just me, or does the poster of this look a little like Rotor's poster?
You're right. You're right, actually. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Rotor ripped it off. He's kind of dressed a little like some of the police officers in this movie. But Rotor's terrible.
Oh yeah. Have you noticed how much abuse Max takes at the end of this movie?
Oh yeah, he gets shot.
He
gets his leg run over
with the motorcycles.
Gets his arm run over. Gets shot in the leg, in the knee. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah.
And then by pure rage, he continues on. Mad. It's fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah, no wonder he's so
And they keep it continuous. throughout the entire series where he and you see at the beginning of the Road Warrior he fashions a sort of brace out of metal for his gimp leg, and that continues on through all the movies, even Fury Road, which is pretty cool.
Also, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but when the Knight Rider and Tokat are both crash,
their eyes just pop out of their head. It's such a funny effect.
Shot too.
Yeah.
It's so brief though that you don't notice it the first time, but it's pretty funny. But yeah, it's Oh, and this is a little brief moment that I bring up. Was that mask that Max was wearing towards the beginning of the movie?
What mask?
There's a Halloween mask he has on that looks like Tor Johnson or Uncle Fester.
I don't remember that. I've seen the movie 5 times or something. I never noticed it.
It's hard to look up the words Mad Max and mask, because then you just get Immortan Joe and then the Cage thing from Fury Road.
Halloween mask. I'll look up Mad Max Halloween mask and see what comes up. Ah, damn it. I had a feeling.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any for it.
No, nothing. You just have to pay close attention and rewatch it, I suppose.
It's just this mask. It's just this mask that it's of some bald character. Maybe it's the Michael Myers mask, actually. It might be the Michael Myers
Something
mask.
else interesting.
A.K.A. William Shatner.
Something else interesting about this movie is that it's the only Mad Max film to be on Netflix.
That's just bizarre.
Oh, yeah. I mentioned that to Nick when we were,
Yeah.
I mean, I have it on DVD, Blu-ray, so I just watched it on that.
I would have assumed that Fury Road would be the only Mad Max on Netflix.
Yeah, I would too. I would expect this one to be the last one to be on Netflix.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good film. For me, it's a toss-up between this and Road Warrior for my favorite, because I think they just both capture that really realistic, gritty, depiction of the apocalypse.
Absolutely.
Before the apocalypse and after, And they're also, the first two movies are also very, very Australian.
Yes, a lot of lingo and whatnot.
Which gives them a lot of charm.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's Mad Max.
Oh, and a lot of just another quick trivia fact I thought I'd bring up. A lot of the extras in the film, they were actual biker gangs.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
The actors rode their own motorcycles.
I heard that they paid them with beer too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't get any more 70s Australia than that.
Yeah.
Just pay it with beer. No money involved, just beer.
That's probably how Mel Gibson heard about it.
Mel Gibson, you fucking drunk.
Anyway, I think we can move on to the second film.
Alrighty.
Mad Max 2.
Warrior.
The
Mad
Road
Max
Warrior.
2, yes. It takes place 5 years after the first Mad Max film.
It was released
1981, yeah?
Yep.
1981 is when it was released, 1982 in the States.
And for this one, they made the right decision, and they did not dub it in an American accent. In America, just came out as is. So, good.
And it had a higher budget than the first one, if I remember right. They marketed it more. Because this was the one, more people saw this than the first one, so a lot of them didn't even know it.
When most people hear Mad Max, this is the movie they think about.
Yeah, it is the definitive one.
Yeah, basically. And also the trailers for it did not focus on Mel Gibson, because he wasn't an established star yet, so they mostly focused on the car chase.
Yes, which are the highlights.
Even though he's the main character of the film. Also, something interesting, this is this was a huge inspiration for a lot of famous directors, other people in the entertainment business, and it's a favorite among Guillermo del Toro, David Fincher, Robert Rodriguez, Hideo Kojima, and James Cameron, all of whom cite it as a huge influence.
It pretty much set the... I would say at the time that it came out in 1981, there were like a few post-apocalyptic movies, but it was definitely a
New
budding genre. Yeah, so I would say this pretty much, for all time, set the standard for post-apocalyptic movies.
Especially when it comes to fashion choices in the post-apocalypse.
Absolutely. They got all crazy punk rock.
I've seen so many rip-offs of this, and they basically wear the same outfits and stuff, and they're like always in like the desert and stuff.
I just love
Warrior of the Lost World's basically a Mad Max, Road Warrior.
I just love the simplicity of Lord Humongous's costume.
Mm-hmm.
It's a couple other straps and then a hockey mask.
Yep.
And this is before Jason wore one in the Friday the 13th films. So take that, Jason.
Absolutely. Well, let's go.
And I find it interesting that the opening, there's like almost no dialogue. And I was thinking you could almost do this as like
in the opening chase. Yeah, I don't think there's just
like this could almost be like a silent film because you can tell what's going on without any dialogue. It's like purely visual. In fact, actually, George Miller, when he was editing the film, he edited it with the sound off, so he could like focus on
Indeed,
the visuals.
And that was something that he did with Fury Road as well, which makes sense, being that the two films are so similar.
Yeah. And it's interesting that, we mentioned that a lot of people did not know this was a sequel. You like almost don't have to see the first film because the opening basically sums up like most of what happened in that film. Well, except for Goose. They don't include Goose in there, which is unfortunate. Because I really liked Goose as a character.
Let's go over the plot, the story of The Road Warrior.
I think you do a good job summarizing.
Alrighty, then I will state the plot. So, The Road Warrior, 5 years from the original Mad Max, meaning that in universe it takes place in 1989 or 90, thereabouts.
That is definitely what 19.
Maybe in Los Angeles.
Yeah, they got the fashion choices right.
Yeah. You got what can you say? You had punk rock on the rise at that time, but so it takes place in universe 1989, 1990, right in there, and Max has just been on the run, just surviving for that amount of time. There have been nukes dropped at this point. That was an interesting differentiation between the first and second. In the first one, the nukes had not yet dropped. It was just a fuel crisis. But in the Road Warrior, after that point, governments did start to get pissy at each other and nukes were dropped. And now it's the actual full-on apocalypse. There is no more society. So, with that being said, the movie starts with just an incredible opening narration. One of the best in any movie that I've seen. Yeah. And it's
a great opening narration. I don't remember who did the voice exactly, but
and it basically explains how we got here, has a few scenes from the original Mad Max, has a bunch of war clips and stuff like that, and it basically society collapsed, people are killing each other over fuel, nukes dropped, and society completely collapsed. And Max, at the end of Mad Max 1, ventures out into the wasteland, and that's where he has been ever since. And it opens on this airplane shot, just going down on the road. And then it cuts to black and it zooms out and you come out of the intake port of Max's supercharger, which is really cool. You open the movie in the middle of a chase. And Max, of course, being the superior driver that he is, there's 2 or 3 guys chasing him. He uses his driving skills to dispatch him. He finds a broken down semi, where one of the guys crashes. His vehicle is leaking fuel. So he starts collecting it. This crazy dude that through a bunch of his driving shenanigans got shot with an arrow. He tricked one of the bandits into shooting him.
Yeah.
Wes is kind of like he's the sort of he's the secondary antagonist of the film, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was also played by Vernon Wells, who was Bennett in Commando.
Absolutely, yes. So he's just the crazy guy of the film, basically. He's the right-hand man of the Humongous, the main antagonist, and he's just crazy. Yeah, he starts to act like he's gonna go up to Max. He pulls out the arrow. It's really cool. I thought it was a really cool thing how he screams in pain at Max, and then he pulls out the arrow, right, as opposed to pulling it out and then screaming. I thought that was, it illustrates how crazy he is.
Yeah, that's great.
Then he sort of revs up his engine like he's gonna go attack Max, and then Max whips out his shotgun, which is his signature weapon of the series, and then he backs off. He does a wheelie, which has a significance, as I learned from my uncle, who was into motorcycles in the 70s and 80s. Back in those days, if you did wheelies and crazy stunts on motorcycles, you were a madman. You were an absolute, like, on public roads and stuff like that. But nowadays, everyone does it. There's like 1,000 million YouTube videos of people just popping wheelies, like in downtown, like New York and shit like that. So,
I mean, it's debatable whether these are public roads.
Technically, they're technically public.
Considering the society
but
we live in
government,
now.
it's all public.
Oh yeah, but the way I took that, him just popping a wheelie as he accelerates away, that's to illustrate that he's just an absolute madman. Because that was what you thought when you saw a guy doing a wheelie.
That was the only thing that clued you in.
No, that's it. No, he doesn't speak. He doesn't do anything out of the ordinary. He's dressed in like business casual. But then he pops that wheelie.
Okay,
and just, holy shit!
Mohawk,
to be fair, in this world, if someone was going around in business casual, they might be the most insane out of everyone.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I didn't even think about that.
I'm here to sell life insurance.
Selling life insurance in the apocalypse, truly the most scrupulous business.
Only thing we got out.
Yeah. Now that should be a line in a post-apocalyptic movie. That would be fantastic. So then Max finds this music box, which takes him back to a different time, before everything went to shit, but then he quickly realizes he's got to get on the run, so he speeds away. Next scene, it's like a day later, because that scene ends at sunset. He comes across this gyrocopter with a big boober naked lady on the tail fin. I might add, that's an important detail which a lot of people forget.
I really liked the interplay between Max, his dog, and the gyrocopter.
Oh yeah. He's really great.
He's great.
Dude, the gyro captain is honestly my favorite character in the film.
He's going for the gyrocopter to get the fuel that might be in it, and the gyro captain just pops out of the. Well, no, he grabs a snake real fast because that's his primary defense. He grabs a snake, and the gyro captain just bursts out of the ground, and he's like, "I've never seen a man make it past the snake before," and he's just this goofy motherfucker basically, and you find out really that he means well, but he's just trying to survive like everyone else. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Dude,
he's talking about how he raises snakes and whatnot.
When he comes back
in the
later
last
in the
chase
film,
scene,
he's talking
when
about
he's
it.
flying, he drops snakes on a guy. So he's the snake guy, basically. So through some witchcraft and wizardry, he gets the drop on the gyro captain. gyro captain, in exchange for his life, tells him where there is a fuel depot, which people are holed up in. And they get there and they
some scavengers.
Yeah, and that's where they find that the Humongous and his gang are trying to get control of this depot, and you have the people living in the depot trying to save up enough fuel to.
Don't you mean the Ayatollah?
The Ayatollah of rock and roller, and then you have to like throw your arm back as you motion to him. You basically have this conflict between the Humongous and his boys, and the people at the fuel depot. The Humongous's gang is just classic marauders, albeit a bit more organized. They're just trying to rape and pillage and get resources, and the people at the fuel depot are trying to refine enough fuel to fill up a tanker so they can all make a pilgrimage to where, like, the coast of Australia, I believe, is where they were trying to go.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, hold on. That's something interesting. Because when they're pointing out where they're trying to go, he says it's a source of infinite fresh water.
Waterworld, actually.
That is not fresh water. That's going to be salt water.
Instead of trying to find water, they're trying to find dry land, man. Which, that was another Mad Max ripoff, was Waterworld.
Albeit it was a very creative and interesting one, though. A terrible movie, obviously, but like it's like the Mario Brothers movie. The aesthetic of it, just the look of everything, is just awesome.
Des Hopper's in both those movies. Des Hopper, he's the villain in both of those movies you just mentioned.
I didn't even know that. Dang.
He plays King Koopa and he plays Deacon in Waterworld. It does look like shit.
That reminds me of Beyond Thunderdome. Well, in any case.
Anyway, we're getting off topic.
He makes it to he's just hanging out, observing the conflict between the Humongous and the people in the depot.
Trying to remain neutral again.
They send out a couple of cars the next day to try and find a vehicle which can tow their tanker full of gasoline, and they one of them gets killed, and the girl who was out on the mission with him gets raped and then killed, and that's kind of where you see that the gyro captain is like he is actually a decent guy. Just his reaction to the girl getting raped and killed.
He is a little bit creepy towards that one blonde.
Yeah. Well, not a lot of women in the apocalypse when you're out on your own. It's like prison, I guess. Yeah. But he was a good guy anyway. You know, he didn't do anything. So yeah, Max returns the guy's dead body, and he tries to make a bargain to get some fuel in exchange for his body. Well, actually, he tried to bring him back alive, but he died as soon as he got him back in the depot. So now Max is just hostage there. Humongous comes up. Max is cuffed to a thing. Humongous comes up, makes a whole speech about how he gives him two options: either fight him or just walk away, and he'll let him live. Allegedly, obviously, everyone knows that's not going to happen. And Max, of course, during this whole speech, is picking the lock on his handcuffs. He gets out, and as soon as everyone leaves, he's just like, "Hey, everyone, you want a vehicle that can haul your tanker? Talk to me, because that's the kind of badass dude he is." And
you want to get out of here? You talk to me.
They have his vehicle hostage, so he can't go anywhere. Yeah. So in exchange for his vehicle and all the gasoline he can carry, he is sent out to get that truck, that semi which he saw in the beginning. And he goes and gets it. There's also this kid, the feral kid, who is significant.
Oh yeah.
He is, as his name suggests, a feral kid. He doesn't speak a language or anything, and he kind of befriends Max and he helps him out throughout the film.
Kind of becomes his surrogate.
Yeah, a little bit. So he goes out, he gets the semi, finds the gyro captain on the way, makes him carry the fuel for the semi as soon as he finds him, because that's the kind of asshole Max is. And they get the semi working, just abandons the gyro captain again. Naturally, Max doesn't give a shit, and he just barely he kind of does. Yeah. The thing that's interesting about the gyro captain is that as shitty as Max treated him throughout the entire film, he never gave up on him. Partner, yeah. And so he just Max in this semi just charges headlong through the Humongous' forces and just barely makes it in the depot without getting got. And the Humongous, he sees this act of defiance and he's like, all right, it's option B for you guys. So he starts he puts on this huge show, like the 2 people that he did capture from that mission the day earlier. He crucifies them, and there's a fire show, and people are doing all sorts of crazy shit on motorcycles. So the people at the depot start to get ready to head out there. The exchange between the mechanic and the leader of the depot when he's asking him what's wrong with it, that was a pretty good scene. Yeah. So it's the next day, and they have everything all hooked up. They got the truck. They got put armor on it and everything. They have these little sort of battle stations mounted on top of the tanker. They send in all their best guys. And Max, during this point, he kept his end of the deal, so he rides out into the wasteland. Everyone wants him to stay and go with them, but Max, he doesn't. He's adverse to helping people because then he could lose them again, which is why he avoids helping people. So he rides out in the wasteland early in the morning. Humongous' guys hear him. They give chase for many hours, as you can tell, because it's really early in the morning. It's still dark out when he leaves, and then it cuts to a scene where it's middle of the morning. They turn on the nitro boost, and they just bash out his windshield of his car, and he crashes. That's a theme in the Mad Max movies, bashing out someone's windshield to make him crash. They go to the wreckage, they kill his dog, and then they trip the booby trap that he set in his car, and it blows up, kills them all. Wes thinks he's dead because he saw the explosion. He heads back to Humongous. Gyro Captain comes in clutch and saves him, never gave up on him, takes him back to the depot. And, if you thought Max had nothing left before, his dog and his car were all he accumulated in that time. Now he actually has nothing. So he says, fuck it, I'll drive the truck. So then the next day they, or is it later that day? I can't even remember. They charge out with this sort of, They charge out with the tanker and the semi with people with flamethrowers and Molotovs, and the warrior princess lady has her bow, her compound bow, and they go out there. The feral kid sneaks on board the semi, so he's there. Max gets some shells for his shotgun. It is revealed that his shotgun had no ammo the entire film. Yep, it was just a trick to get people to comply. So he actually has ammo
the whole time.
Massive chase scene, which Razor Fist, action movie connoisseur, says on a scale of 1 to Death Race, it breaks the needle off the fucking gauge. It's just one of the best chase scenes of all time in movie history. You got all the stunts are real. There's this one freak motorcycle accident where a dude, he flies off the motorcycle, his legs get caught by a bar or something, and he does 3 front flips in the air and crashes. It almost killed the guy.
That guy that flipped over.
Yeah.
You mentioned it already, sorry. Go ahead.
Apparently that...
Yeah. And the best part,
apparently
that guy
stunt failed
when they tried he broke a bunch of bones or something, it almost killed him. He was back on set to do more shit that same day.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I think you'd make the case that is the greatest vehicle chase just
I would say so, history. Yeah. I would say it's even better than Fury Road. I'm probably going to catch a lot of flack for that, but I think it's better than Fury Road.
I considering the limitations they had, I mean, it's crazy.
And the best part of it being made in 1981 is all of it is real. There is no trickery.
Yeah, the big oil compound. That big oil compound getting blown up.
Yep.
Real. Yeah. That's the most impressive part of it.
Eat your heart out, Michael Bay.
Yep, no CG here. They actually blew the shit up.
Yeah. You got the motorcycle going under the big wheel and getting crushed. That was real. Yep. It's crazy.
Just very, very highly impressive stuff.
Sorry,
I'm almost done. So they have this big, huge chase. They take out a bunch of cars. Everyone on the rig except for Max and the feral kid gets killed. And then the chase ends. Wes is like up on the front of the truck. He climbs on the truck and they manage to force him onto the front. Max kills a guy with his sawed off, just shoots through the windshield, which is really sick. And then, in the final scene, Wes, he just pops up from the front. They thought he went under the wheels or something, but he's not dead. Like, his face is all covered in blood and shit, and he's screaming. And then Humongous is heading the other way on the road, and he's, like, nitro boosted, so he can't like, slow down. And he just crashes head first, just nose-to-nose collision into this semi, killing Wes and Humongous at the same time, and then Max crashes the semi in the ditch, and it is revealed that he was tricked the whole time, actually. He was just a diversion. There was sand in that tanker, and the gas was stored in barrels, which all the people in the compound took with them in a caravan. So then the gyro captain smiles at him as he's like, look at what happened to you, look at us. And Max is kind of like, he has this look on his face where he's like, you got me good, but then that's the end of it. Max is left alone, standing in the middle of the road, and it cuts out, and the ending narration starts, and it's like, well, as for the Road Warrior, he lives now only in my memory. And that's it. That's the Road Warrior. Yep, the opening and ending narration was
fun fact about that ending narration.
Yep.
That is actually the feral kid as an old man.
Of the people who escaped the compound, which they did. Of course, according to the narration, they did successfully make it to the coast of Australia, and they started like a society there.
Yeah. So anyway, we delivered the bomb.
What's up?
They found all of their fresh water.
I said, so anyway, they delivered the bomb. Caught the jaws. But what were you saying, Nick?
I was just making a joke. Max said they made it to the coast, and I said, yes, right by all that fresh water.
Yeah. And dry land, man.
So that's the Road Warrior. Very, very,
a lot of
much
stuff to
better
talk about here.
Produced than the original Mad Max. As you would expect, It's pretty much just better in every way. It makes more sense. You can understand everything that's happening on the first watch.
I actually think this is the most quotable of the movies.
Which is interesting that you think that, because Nostalgia Critic would disagree with you and say Beyond Thunderdome is way more quotable. But he's Nostalgia Critic, so fuck him.
Yeah, no, his opinion no longer matters. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I just have this wild theory. I think the chase scenes in this movie inspired Fury Road.
You don't say! I have said, whenever I try and describe Fury Road, I say it's Road Warrior times 11, basically.
Yeah, it's just it's just one really big Road Warrior chase scene, basically.
They crank up the vehicles, they crank up the stunts, just everything.
Yeah. Something interesting though that I do something that I do find interesting about the Road Warrior is Lord Humongous's character, because he's not just big brute and bondage gear. He's actually got a brain that he uses.
Yeah, he's sinister.
And he's the leader not just because he has muscles, but because he has plans. He wants something and he knows how to get it.
And it was a very interesting, and you can also see the symbolism of him being this very powerful figure in the wasteland, kind of similar to the Immortan Joe. Humongous is he's huge. He's like a massive bodybuilder type, and in the wasteland, you don't have.
Well, his name is
yeah, of course. But I mean, he's huge. He's low body fat. He's got like good muscle density and everything, and that's like a symbology of power in the wasteland in particular, because it's hard enough to get yourself figured out enough in real life to like get in good shape, but he did it in the way he has like a bodybuilder's physique in the wasteland where there's no resources. So that's the symbology of like how much power he has in that group, basically.
Yeah. So tries making like negotiations with them. He's not
at all
stupid. Basically, he like tries to make deals with them. I like that. There's one part where Wes like gets mad when his blonde friend like gets killed, and he gets like really angry. He like wants to like get revenge on them, but then Humongous like tries calming him down, saying like we all
lost someone we love.
That is a very interesting scene.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah,
we all lost someone we love, but we do it my way.
And the way that guy dies too with the boomerang kind of reminded me of a Hard Ticket to Hawaii a little bit. I guess that was a frisbee in that movie, but still, it kind of made me wonder: was that movie inspired?
Could have been. A lot of things were inspired from the Road Warrior.
Oh, obviously, yeah.
Now next to Fury Road, the road.
I also like how Max is depicted more as like a tragic character here. He's like just this loner that doesn't stay for long. I mentioned he's kind of like Rick from Casablanca, but he's also a little bit like Clint Eastwood from some of his old like spaghetti westerns. The Man with No Name.
I think I read somewhere that
he just wanders into town. He doesn't want to help the townspeople first, but then he kills the bad guys and then heads off into the desert again to find some other place.
I read that the Man with No Name was a pretty big inspiration for Max's character in this movie.
The
Road Warrior,
and also an inspiration for Boba Fett.
The Road Warrior was a big hit. Well, obviously in Australia, the Mad Max movies are always huge, but
it was a much bigger hit in
because it was. I can't remember if this was like very intentional on George Miller's part or if it just turned out that way. But Mad Max is like, it's sort of the modern Western. The Westerns take place in a very specific place in a very specific time period, but this is like the apocalyptic Western. You have Max, the Man with No Name. His horse is the V8 Interceptor, and so on. Yeah.
I think it was definitely deliberate, because it's just, because there's just too many, like, crossovers, too many connections.
It definitely feels like a Western to me.
And that's, a lot of people liked it because they were like, this is essentially a Western, and Max is the cowboy, so.
Seventh Samurai, that probably would have served as an inspiration as well.
Apparently the Road Warrior was pretty big in Japan for that same reason. You had like the samurai westerns.
Yeah, because it's kind of like a Kurosawa film.
Apparently, there's a pretty famous manga series in Japan, Fist of the North Star. One of the villains at one point was inspired mostly by Lord Humongous.
That's awesome.
He had a masked like he wore a mask over his whole face, and his plans and motivations were basically the same as Lord Humongous.
I think I saw a clip of Fist of the
yeah.
North Star with him in it, actually. Yeah.
Huh.
I also think of the movies, this captures just how lonely and miserable the apocalypse would be. You know, it's just all
there's nothing out there.
Stuff. You know, like the look of it's great. Like the cinematography, and it's a very, very well edited movie. You know, like even during like slow scenes, it moves.
Yes.
It just keeps moving.
That's something very interesting. For as similar as The Road Warrior is to Fury Road, or the reverse, I should say, they are tonally opposite films. Because in The Road Warrior, it's a much more accurate depiction of what the apocalypse would be like. It's desolate. You have to fight for everything. It's not like a good time. But then Fury Road is like, wetness! And you have rock music playing, and there's just all sorts of crazy shit happening.
Fury Road had a way bigger budget.
See what?
For one thing, and like the sets and the production, the sets and stuff.
See, I love how in Fury Road there's a gasoline shortage, but
in Fury Road,
yeah, in Fury Road. But the thing is, like, you look at that. That's a lot of gasoline you're using.
Well, there's not. Well, no, because you have
like
Gastown.
An absurd amount.
You have Gastown in Fury Road. Remember?
Oh yeah. I forgot about that.
Oh, we get it. Fury Road is good. Let's get back to the Road Warrior. I also think like even though it's like a really like miserable landscape and stuff, I like that they find a little room for like humor in there. There's like that old guy. He's like talking about like
nothing to do
water,
but breathe.
plenty of sunshine, nothing to do but breathe. I love that line.
Yeah,
that might be my favorite line in the movie. Either that or you're a maggot, a scavenger, living off the corpse of the world, which sums up Max's character.
Oh, there were a lot of deliberate touches with analogies to scavenger birds for Max. When the scene where he comes in and he finds the gyro captain's a gyrocopter. There's a vulture's call or something. Like in the background, there's birds here and there, and of course his well, no, I guess the color of his car doesn't have any significance to it. But point being, Max is analogous to a scavenger bird. Yeah.
Scavenger, yeah. Vulture. Yep. Friends till the very end. To quote the book, but anyway. I also like how I read this trivia. Like apparently Mel Gibson said they like chose the location for filming. He like said we filmed in the only place nobody would go. It wasn't, and he also added it wasn't glamorous.
Even the filming of Fury Road wasn't glamorous. Just in the desert.
Yeah.
Middle of nowhere.
They definitely chose very good locations for it.
Absolutely.
It just looks like a wasteland out there.
And of course, the reason the highways are not all cracked and just absolutely horrible condition in the Road Warrior is that if you live someplace that's closer to the equator, unlike we do, then you don't get the expanding and contracting of concrete every year, and so roads last a lot longer. Like when I lived in California, like those sidewalks are like 100 years old and they're still basically immaculate.
Whoa, yeah. That's crazy. As opposed to here where they repair them every few years.
And not very well either. But
also, like, there's that one guy that has like a weasel on his head.
It was that was the guy who like was like the messenger of the humongous or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, there's this one guy who looked sort of like the warden from Cool Hand Luke.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dang, now I need to rewatch Cool Hand Luke. To communicate.
Failure to communicate. I don't like it any more than you, man. But that's the way he wants it. He gets it.
I think you misquoted
I might
a
have.
little bit, but whatever. Yeah, I think he switched them around. But I also like how the bad guys like tie people to the front of their trucks.
Yeah,
just for intimidation.
For intimidation purposes.
Yep.
What more can be said about The Road Warrior? It's a tremendous film.
Yeah.
Any questions?
I got what I
Any
need
comments?
here.
Any concerns?
You don't got a future.
About The Road Warrior?
Oh, the part where they killed his dog.
Yeah, I saw it. I'm like, don't take Max's dog. He's been through enough. Please stop.
He's got nothing left to lose now.
And
also, it's interesting that Max doesn't have very many lines.
Yeah, he has like 16 lines, I think.
16. Yeah.
That is
16.
something that has been, well, kind of aside from the first one, that has been pretty consistent with all the Mad Max films, is that Max, technically he's the main character, but more or less he's just a surrogate for the... He's like the consistency. He's the surrogate for the audience. He's just along for the ride, and the characters he comes across are like the ones you pay attention to.
Yeah. And also, what's interesting is they actually shot the film in sequence.
Oh, that's good.
Huh.
I didn't.
I don't know if you knew that. So, like, they shoot the...
Yeah, scene by scene.
Scene 1, scene 2, scene 3. Yeah. Which is interesting.
Sometimes it makes more sense to not, but...
Probably made it easier in editing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Real easy editing on that.
I guess.
Real easy editing. Is that it?
I believe so.
Alrighty, are we...
I mean, most of that was you summarizing it.
That's that. That's Mad Max 1 and The Road Warrior. We ready to wrap it up?
Hold on, I'm trying to get something here, but my computer is fighting me. This was the character in Fist of the North Star.
I gotcha.
That was inspired by Lord Humongous. You can kind of see.
Yes.
Doesn't look anything like Lord Humongous at all.
He's a big dude. He's got leather straps. What more do you want?
He got a mask.
So I guess that means tomorrow we'll do...
Beyond Thunderdome and
Beyond
Fury
Thunderdome.
Road.
All right.
And
ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Films Under Constant Critique podcast, and we've been your hosts, Maverick Drenzaria, Servant of Athena, and I'm Susano, and we will see you in the next exciting episode. Until then...
Goodbye.
Yep.